Your girl is big. We're back and we're off. Alright. Today was interesting. Interesting to say the least. The morning started out pretty hectic. I ended up having to send one of my patients to the unit meaning the ICU. Had to send him over there because homeboy was trying to die on me and he just needed to go. And then I had a difficult patient who, he wasn't difficult in the sense of, okay, honey, wild ass turn. He wasn't difficult in the sense of medically, but he was a patient that had been rude to staff and been refusing care and things like that. So he was very emotional this morning. So once I seen that, I had a talk with him about, that he needs to pretty much stop refusing his care, stop refusing therapy, and things like that if he wants to give it. He was a young guy too, very young, in his 40s. So I had a nice little talk with him before my other fellow tried to go see the Lord. So that was nice. It makes my heart pitter-patter a little bit when I have patients who've been difficult and I can talk to them and kind of make a difference and have a different perspective, because he was one of us. Okay, he was one of us, and like I said, very young guy. So I think that me talking to him really made a difference, because I'm the type of nurse, I'm very compassionate, but I'm gonna give it to you straight, right? And I told him that I'm gonna give it to you straight, and I think that he appreciated that, because I think he was used to people just, I'm trying to get this, it's whatever. I think he was used to people just with him refusing and just being okay, and then document refuse versus actually trying to understand where he was coming from. And I mean, turns out he'd been in a hospital he'd been with us for almost 2 months. He initially was over in the unit. He's trach pegged. Granted, he can eat, can't talk, but obviously being in the bed for so long, he's not as mobile as he once was. So like I said, it kind of made me feel good to know that what I said to him, and I wasn't mean, I was just very very straightforward and didn't sugarcoat it. And like I said, I think he kind of needed to hear that. And it did make a difference, because throughout the rest of the day, he was very pleasant. He worked with therapy, even though he wasn't able to do much, but he did try and put forth the effort. And even when I was helping him with his toileting needs or whatever, he was able to try and help me roll and move and pull himself up in the bed and just little things like that. So like I said, that kind of made me feel good. And like I said, I think he really appreciated that as well. Because I think what he was telling me was he didn't realize, how he may have came off to people. And I told him, I said, honestly, there are people that don't want to take care of you anymore because of the way, how rude you were to them. And he said he apologized and was that wasn't my intentions. And like I said, we talked and things like that. But like I said, I had to cut it short because I had to go, check on my other patient. But like I said, that made me feel good. So it's moments like that where I'm able to get through to my patients and kind of help them understand. Because a lot of people, they try to beat around the bush and sugarcoat things. But yeah, they try to beat around the bush and sugarcoat things. And I'm not one of those nurses. I'm not. Now, in certain patients, I may be a little bit more sensitive, depending on the patient. But I'm still going to give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you straight. And I think a lot of nurses are scared to do that, because some nurses are very passive. But I think I'm not gonna say some nurses are just afraid, like, I guess they're gonna like overstep their boundaries, or like think the patient, I don't know, it's like it's weird. Like, I just think a lot of nurses don't have that I don't even know the word to call it, honestly, but they don't have that oomph to be able to tell the patients these things. And I think sometimes it's the way you say things, is depending on how the patient perceives it. So this is a tip to all of my newer nurses, because I see this a lot in younger, newer nurses. It's like they're afraid to tell a patient certain things. And like I said, there is a way you say things, and how you say it, but be stern in what you say. Because like how I'm talking to you guys now is how I was talking to that patient. Like, I was very stern with what I was saying, still being empathetic by letting them, like, hey, I said I can't say I know what you're going through, but I said I empathize with you, and I can understand how everything is going on. I can understand how that makes you feel. So you got to be empathetic with them, but still stern, and not be afraid to like help direct their care by telling them, certain things. And there are some patients, baby, you're not gonna be able to get through to them. You just not, and that's okay. There are some patients who you're not going to be able to get through to, and that's just the nature of healthcare. But at the same instant, you still have to know that, okay, I did what I could for this patient, even if the patient was not receptive to it. Still know that you did your part, right? So yeah, and I think that comes with time, because in the beginning of my career, I don't think I was as confident in doing so. And like I said, it's a thing that comes with new nurses. Like, it takes a while to be able to build up that confidence, and be able to have these conversations with your patients, and still be able to interact with them despite of what other people may have said about them. Because I could have took what I've heard about him and let that direct my care towards him. But I didn't do that. I went in there with a different approach. I was very stern from jump. Like, I was very like, hey, my name's LaShar, I'm gonna be your nurse today. I'm here to take, blah, 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 blah. Did my assessment, all the things. And where was I going with that? I don't remember. Don't remember. I think it's the lack of nourishment. I have not really eaten today. I had like a couple little protein bars, some protein coffee, and some water, and a Celsius. Like, in the 12 hours I was at work. So I think I'm lacking a little nutrients to the brain or whatever. But yeah, like I said, that's a tip too. Hold up. A tip to my newer nurses. Oh, and this is another tip that I want to give to another tip for my newer nurses. When it comes to communicating with doctors, because that's another thing that I find that newer nurses are like scared of, or are like don't know how to approach certain things. So when communicating with doctors, and I mean every hospital is different as to how you communicate with them. Like, sometimes they have you, like, there's like a number you call to reach the hospitalist, or like the whatever specialty you have questions about. Or sometimes what I prefer is the secure chat, because I don't like to talk to people. So I rather secure chat the providers. So be confident. Like I said, it comes with time, but be confident in what you're saying, what you're asking for. Be confident in your assessment of the patient. Like today, I had the patient I was telling you about. He just took a sudden change out of nowhere, and I explained to the doctor the situation, what was going on, his vital signs. He was running a temp of 102. I was requesting that we get him some Tylenol because we didn't have any Tylenol ordered. I stated what his heart was doing and what I thought was contributing to that, because he was in there shaking and trembling and stuff like that, and he was in SVT. And I told her, I said, I think that him trembling and stuff is causing it to pick up weird on his leads. It's causing it to show SVT and things like that. So be confident in your assessment and what you think is going on with the patient. And even if you're wrong, it's okay, but be confident. Because doctors will prey, not all doctors, but some doctors will prey on your lack of confidence and try to make you feel bad or downplay what you're saying. And also, don't be afraid to advocate for your patients. I remember at this assignment, I had one patient who, I believe she had some liver issues, some cardiac issues. She was swollen all over, had some ascites, and things like that. So and her pressure was a bit on the softer side. It was I don't really remember, but it was soft. That I do remember. And I messaged the doctor, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on with the patient. I said, do you think that she could benefit from albumin? And the doctor messages me back and is like, we'll talk when I get on the floor. Okay. What that mean? So shortly after that, I seen that he had ordered some tests to see how much fluid she had on board. Or I think he did, I forgot what he did, but I think he wanted to see how bad her ascites was, or it's something like that. But he ran some tests based on the question I asked, and he never did respond to me other than, hey, we'll talk when we get on the floor. I didn't say nothing else to him, because at the end of the day, I know I was doing something that could benefit my patient, and me showing, concern for everything she had going on, right? But yeah, there are a lot of times where I'm just like, hey, do you think this? And I think your choice of wording depends on how the doctor will respond to you. And even if you say, well, they may say, maybe not, because this is going on, right? I don't know. It's just, you have to be confident in what you're saying. And even if you're not sure prior to messaging the doctor, ask your charge nurse, right? That's what if you're, like I said, a new nurse and you're not confident, or if sometimes you need a second opinion. Even me to this day, there are times where, there have been times I'm like, can y'all come look at this? Sometimes it may be something you haven't seen before, or something you're not sure about. Call for backup, because most nurses are willing to help you out, because we all have ran into this issue. Sometimes you just need a second set of eyes, somebody with different or more experience than you. Don't be afraid to, like I said, to ask, because like I said, nobody's gonna look down on you for asking a question. And even me to this day, as a travel nurse and as a nurse that has 8 years of experience, damn, that's crazy to say 8 years, but that has 8 years of experience, that I know a lot and I've seen a lot, but there's still a lot of things that I don't know, or things that I haven't seen before, or different things like that. So I'm never afraid to ask for help. Granted, there are not many times I have to ask for help in that instance, but when that opportunity presents itself, I'm not afraid to ask questions. So I think this just turned into tips for new nurses. I don't know how we got here, but we're here, and enjoy. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask your team members for help, because like I said, that's what they're there for. And especially a lot of when you're a new nurse, they know you're a new nurse. No, they're not gonna and like I said, most people won't Lord. Most people won't make you feel bad about it or things like that. And especially make friends too. Make friends, because usually once you make friends with a nurse or two in the unit and y'all are all working together, y'all all help each other out. Not to say you just help them out, but y'all all help each other out. So it could be something as, hey girl, I'm busy right now, do you have time to start this IV in room such and such, because she needs to get such and such? Or, hey girl, I need some help, can you help me hold a penis, hold a leg, hold a coochie lip, I need to put a Foley in. Or you never know what it is. Or, hey girl, this patient's being combative, I need to give him a shot of Geodon, or whatever it is, whatever. Don't be or I need to turn my 300-pound, not even 300, I don't know, my 600-pound patient who's completely bedridden and immobile. Girl, come help me. Don't be afraid to ask for help regardless. If you think you need a hand, you probably need a hand. So yeah, I appreciate new nurses because they're willing, they're so eager, you know what I mean? They're willing to learn, and they're willing to just jump in because they haven't seen a lot of these things. And you can kind of teach them the right way along the way, right? Let's see, what's another tip I have for new nurses? Don't get so caught up on tasks. That's another thing. I think we especially I'm gonna use Epic for example, or this is with any charting system, but I'm gonna use Epic because I like Epic. With Epic, it'll give you times where you're supposed to do tasks, times where you need to pass your meds, or do wound care, or reassess this, or whatever the case may be. If you know Epic, you know. It gives you times where you need to do things. Don't get so caught up on time frames. Yes, you want to do things in a timely fashion, but you prioritize care and patient, safety and patient needs first. And don't get so caught up on your charting. And that's a thing that I've seen. That's the thing that I've seen with new nurses. They get caught up on those task-oriented things that they kind of, I don't want to say they neglect their patients, but they kind of wait longer than they should to do certain things, right? Like I said, the charting ain't going nowhere. With Epic, you can back time your charting. So even if you may assess your patient at 8 o'clock in the morning, but you don't get around to putting in their assessment in the computer till 3 because you haven't set down the chart, you can back time it till 8. And that's a lot of places that I've noticed too. That's not just Epic, because people know you don't get your charting done right when you do stuff. You feel me? You may not chart till later on that day. And that's okay, as long as you get your stuff in before the end of the shift, then you're fine. But like I said, prioritize patient care. If you have patient that needs stat meds, or a patient that just had a change in status, and are, you know, now that are now in distress, or a patient in pain, or whatever the case may be. There are numerous situations, but be sure to prioritize that care, and put your patient first, because like I said, at the end of the day, the patients come first. The rest of the computer shit and all that can wait. Like I said, yes, you want to get meds done on time, and, you know, things like that, but within reason. Or if you need help passing meds because you're behind because you had a patient crash in room 2, call a friend, call charge. That's what, though, especially charge, because usually your friends probably will have some patients too. But ask your chargers. I don't have to do it often, but I've had to do it before, where you getting too close for my liking, too close. But where I've had to call charge, like, hey, and they a lot of times chargers are already aware of what's going on with whatever patient you're like dealing with. So they're usually already ahead of it. Or sometimes they're like, hey, I went ahead and medicated room 5 for you. Like, all right, bet, appreciate you. Did they need anything else while you're there? They're like, no, they were good. Okay, cool. Sometimes you may not get around to your assessment that time, but you cycle back and do your full assessment, whatever. Also, another thing, new nurses, bedside shift report is another thing. That's big, for a plethora of reasons that I know I don't have to go into. But make sure you're doing bedside shift report. And I will say that I'm guilty for not always doing this, but after, like, I'll give report, well, usually it's when I get report, I'll go in, peep in on the patient, make sure they don't need anything, update my boards in the room, and do it that way. Because sometimes, give a report, baby, you know you being an audit, or sometimes me and the nurse will walk in, introduce, hand off, whatever, and then come out and give a full report. You're not supposed to do that. Once again, this is the don't do what I do. This is the don't do what I do. But that's what a lot of times we do. And with new nurses, especially if your patient is on like a lot of IV meds, you need to sign off on making sure that they're getting the right medication, do eye tracing your lines. That's a thing, because sometimes they'll be like, the patient's not on any oxygen, and you go in the room and the patient's on 10 liters high flow. Well, you told me they was on room air. How do we get from room air to 10 liters? You know what I mean? Like, what happened? Or the patient said, or they're told that they're on normal saline at 100, and you go in there and they're not hooked up to nothing. What? So certain meds, you know what I mean? So just make sure you're doing that bedside shift report, because that's gonna, hold the previous nurse accountable. So yeah, that's gonna hold the previous nurse accountable. That's gonna ensure patient safety, make sure patients aren't getting up out the bed, or make sure anybody on the floor, make sure bed alarms are on, things like that. And it literally takes a few minutes, like it literally do. But there's that. What else? Girl, I feel like I got so many tips for y'all. What else? Here's another one that I thought that I could think of. Communicating with difficult families. right? Now, some families are, and I don't even know how to. So, communicating with difficult families. So, I've said so quite a bit. Whatever. So, families can be, it's usually a couple of things. Families can be just really rude and nasty. Families can be super demanding and needy. And they can be very wanting to know every little thing going on with mom, right? And depending on how they approach me and like how they present themselves is how I handle it, right? So if I have a family member that comes off to me and is rude, I'm gonna check that shit right then and there, baby. And I'm gonna let them know that I have no problem updating them on their loved one, but it'll be once they talk to me like how I'm talking to them. Because I'm not going to communicate with anybody that's being rude or nasty. And that's, I'm not communicating with somebody like that. Then you, like I said, you have the super needy ones who want to like just need everything under the sun. I do that. I just tell them like, so for example, if I like, sometimes but it's because the patient's been there a few times or has been there before. If a patient is needy or their family is needy, I try to anticipate their needs, or I'll say something like, I'll answer their questions. Do you guys have any other questions about anything? Or do you guys need anything else while I'm in here? And based on that, I'll go from there. If they say, no, I think you've answered all of our questions. No, we don't need anything else. Well, okay, I'll come back and check on you after a while, Mr. and Mrs. Such and Such. And kind of go from there. And usually that handles... What the fuck? And usually that handles all of the questions and things like that. And then, like I said, you got those patients that want to know all of the tests and things and what we're doing for mom and blah, 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 blah. So, like I said, I'll answer what I can. Sometimes I defer it to the doctor, like, hey, the family of such and such wants to talk to you about such and such. And kind of defer it that way. Like I said, I'll answer what I can. I don't always try to defer things to the doctor because I know obviously they're just as busy, as I am. But I do try to tell them what I can. And then if they say, well, we would like to speak to the doctor in regards to XYZ, or sometimes if they say, hey, I would like to speak to the doctor, I'm like, what is in regards to, so I can let them know specifically. Oh, well, I just wanted to know what mom's potassium was this morning. And it's like, oh, well, I said, maybe I can answer. I said, well, this morning it was XYZ, which is up or down or about the same since the last time they did that test. So sometimes I try to handle things in that manner. So yeah, it just depends. Because like I said, sometimes the patients really don't be that bad. But baby, them families be something different. And I just be like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. Like I've dealt with some difficult families, but I think for me, I think I handle things pretty well just because of my personality, like I can be very stern, but as a matter of fact, but informative, but empathetic, all in the same breath. And some majority of the time, people are receptive to it, depending on the situation. There's been a couple of times where patients or families just thought I was being rude, when that's not the case, I guess, because I wasn't like, oh my god, mom this or dad this or I'm not one of them, baby. I'm gonna give it to you raw. But I don't know, that's just kind of so yeah. What else I got for y'all? What other new nurse questions do y'all have for me? Because I know there's a lot. And another thing too, like, I want to be a mentor for newer nurses in getting them acclimated in the healthcare setting, especially the first 6 months to a year, because those are, I feel like you learn a lot of your skill. Not as teacher, there's going to obviously be always like a learning curve, or, you know, room to learn and things you're going to learn, but I like that first year, I feel like it's crucial for building the foundation of your nursing career, because like I said, you're gonna learn so many things, and it's gonna kind of shape you and shape your perspective and shape your attitude and things like that. So I definitely want to be like a mentor for newer nurses. So if there are any newer nurses, or those who may be in nursing school or just finished up, or within your first year of nursing, you know, I definitely want to be able to help you out and kind of give you some tips and pointers and suggestions in how to handle, you know, difficult and hard situations in a very professional way. Because like I said, that's something that you can't teach that. You can't teach a lot of things that you have to deal with in nursing, and knowing how to like effectively time manage, or knowing how to advocate for your patients, or knowing how to communicate with doctors. They could teach you about CHF and diabetes and hypertension and respiratory failure. We could teach you that. They can teach you that all day in nursing school. But there's a lot of things to nursing that can't be taught. And like I said, that's where I want to come in and but yeah, so like I said, I want to definitely be a mentor for you guys. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave my contact information. It'll probably be my Instagram. I'll leave that down below. That way, if you guys are interested, and like I said, allow me to be your mentor, you can like hit me up on DM me on Instagram. That way we can kind of move forward from there and do that. So I'm gonna wrap up this car rant, because I'm gonna call my man and talk to him for the rest of the way. So yeah, I'm gonna call my man and talk to him for the rest of the way home, and I will catch y'all in my next car rant. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, girl. You know, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, hit all the things, except we don't hit that button. Don't hit that, but hit all the other buttons. And I will talk to y'all in my next car rant.